Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah ala ni'matil islami wa kafa biha ni'ma. All praise and gratitude be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on His blessing of Islam, which suffices as a blessing. So we are at the halfway of 24th para, and we'll complete the 24th para today. We started on with Surah Mu'min last time, and we had done up to ayat number 41. And just as a reminder, we were looking at the story of this righteous person who was in the court of Pharaoh, but he hid his faith. But when Pharaoh said, I'm going to kill Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, he threatened to kill him. This man, he pleaded, don't do this. And he made a long speech, and that whole speech is really recorded here in Surah Mu'min, until he really comes in and he confesses his faith and he says, this is it, I'm done. And that's the story that we're going to do it. So let's just start on with ayat number 42 of Surah Mu'min. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Tad'unani li akfura billahi wa ushrika bihi ma laysa li bihi ilm wa ana ad'ukum ila al-azizil ghaffar. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, you invite me to reject my belief in Allah and ascribe to Him partners about whom I have no knowledge, while I invite you to the Almighty, the Forgiving. So you can see here the righteous man seems to have just thrown the caution to the wind, as they say. He reached a stage when he is not bothered. He is not really fearful of anything, and he is really saying what you are inviting to me is very different. I'm inviting you to the Almighty, the Forgiving. No doubt that those you invite to me cannot be called upon in this world or in the hereafter, and that we have to return back to Allah, and that the extravagant are the people of fire. So I think it's simple. He's just really telling them that these deities that you are inviting me to, they have no power in this world, in the hereafter. But in the end, he uses a word, and he uses something which I just want to really explain. Annal musrifina hum ashabun nar. That's the point, that's the word that he used, that the extravagant are indeed people of the fire. So this is what is israf? I think that's what we really want to understand. Israf is something which is wasteful, which is translated as something which is extravagant. And extravagancy in everything is disliked. It's not just extravagant in spending, even in speech, in spending, even in our emotion, even in happiness, in sadness, in anger. This actually what it does is actually it introduces a disbalance in our personality. So whenever we exceed our needs, even in anger, sadness, happiness, emotions, spending, talking, when we exceed our needs, and we are getting very close to being extravagant. And who decides whether we are extravagant or not? We are the best deciders. We are the best deciders. We really know. We know what the needs are. So don't exceed anything. Even in your emotions, don't exceed that need. So this is a wrap-up. I mean, this is really a wrap-up of the story of this righteous man. And he's, like I said, speaking in the court of Pharaoh. And you know the ending. Here is the Pharaoh. He's making this speech, who is almighty at that time, thinking himself to be the mighty and the powerful one. And look what happened despite his might and his power, his palaces. In the end, he is the one who perished. Soon you will remember what I am saying to you, and I entrust my matter with Allah. Surely Allah is ever seeing of His servants. So on the Day of Judgment, people will wish that they had heard this man, right? They had heard this righteous man, and not only heard, but they had followed him. So after delivering the message of Allah, he puts his own mamla, his own end result, he puts the mamla on Allah, he entrusts his affair on him. Then Allah saved him from the evils of what they had designed, and the house of Pharaoh was encircled by an evil punishment. Now, how did Allah save him? We don't know. All we just know is that Allah saved him. We don't know how He did it. But as the result of the Pharaoh, that's known. The result of what happens to his follower, that is well known, well recorded in history, well recorded in Quran, that he was surrounded by the azab of Allah. It is the fire before which they are presented morning and evening, And on the day when the hour will take place, it will be said, admit the people of Pharaoh into the most severe punishment. Now you can see over here that this is a kind of a warning that people, the evil people who will suffer even before the day of resurrection. And they say this is an ayah which really tells us that there is something which is called azab-e-qabr, that in the morning and evening they are presented, the fire is presented to them, but really the most severe punishment would be in the hereafter. So the real punishment will be after the accountability, when they will be dragged into the hellfire. And when they will argue with each other in the fire, so the weak will say to those who were arrogant, surely we used to follow you only so you can avail us against some portion of the fire. Now you can see the agony of these people of fire. They followed, who were they following? They were following men of ideology. They would take guidance from people and man-made theories. And we see these classes that are there in our societies, the atheists, the agnostics, and all these people that are there, the people who deliberately deny the existence of Allah. Those who are arrogant will say, we all are in it. Allah has already passed the judgment between His slaves. So no matter what people claim in this world, how great they are, on the day of judgment, they will have no authority. All power, all decisions will belong to Allah. So why not accept the decisions of Allah while we are still in this world? Ultimately, people have to accept, so that people are not in such a dire strait in the hereafter. And those in the fire will say to the keepers of hell, pray to your Rabb to lighten for us just one day of punishment. They'll plead to these people, plead to these angels who are the keepers of hell. Plead to them, give us a short break, give us a little respite. They will say, had your messenger not been coming to you with open signs? They will say, of course. They will say, then keep praying, but the calling of the disbeliever is in vain. So the rejection of the appeal, they will make this appeal to the keepers of hell, and their appeal will be rejected. If you wanted to save yourself, you should have listened to the Prophet. You should have heard the da'wat of the messenger. Surely we do help our messengers and believers in the worldly life, as well as on the day in which the witnesses shall stand. Who are these witnesses? On the day when the witnesses shall stand. Who are these witnesses that Quran is referring to? Well, firstly, the prophets. Prophets will be presented as a witness that they got the message and they deliver the message. Next will be the angels, who are there recording everything that we are doing and saying. They are deputed to write our deeds. Even the earth, even ourselves, our body, everything will bear a witness. Like, we'll see in some later ayahs coming in today that our hands, our feet, our eyes, they will be a witness for us, or they will be a witness against us. A day when apologies of the unjust will bring them no benefit, and on them shall be a curse, and for them will be the evil abode. So again, here making excuse for trying to justify bad behavior. I mean, all these apologies that are there, and Quran says then on these people who make these apologies for the unjust, this will bring really no benefit on them, and the curse will be on them. The curse being a distance from the mercy of Allah. We gave guidance to Moses while we made the children of Israel inherit the book. So Quran says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Bani Israel as the inheritors of the book. They made the waris. Virasat is really inheritance, which means heritage over here. That there are some responsibilities which have to be fulfilled. This fazilah that the people of the book have is only till the time that they fulfill the responsibilities. The problem begins when the fazilat is remembered, but the responsibilities are forgotten. As a guide and an advice for a people of understanding. So the purpose of the book is guidance and reminder, and this is first forgotten. The first thing that people forget is that this book that we have is a book of guidance and it's a book of reminder. This is something people forget the first. The book that is then used only for barakat. It is then used only as a book of blessing for the dead when people die. But when you think about it, who needs guidance? Who needs guidance? Let's just look at this question. The one who is still traveling towards his destination, right? We will always say, if you are traveling towards a destination, you need guidance. So who are those people who are alive? It's people like us. The one who has already reached his manzil, the one who has already reached his grave, what guidance is needed by him? Why would Quran benefit them? People read the Quran more like a ritual, right? Like as if it's a kind of a mantra. Like if someone reads Surah Baqarah, what good it's going to do to the dead? Because Surah Baqarah contains rules and regulation about marriage, divorce, Hajj, fasting. The dead don't need any of these activities, right? They don't need guidance over here. So this is a book of guidance for those who are living. So be patient. Surely the promise of Allah is true, and seek forgiveness for your sins and celebrate the praise of your Rabb in the evening and the morning. So if people do not take guidance, this is a kind of a consolation for our Prophet ﷺ. Be patient. Things will change. After every night there is a day when people will recognize the value of this book, the benefit of guidance. They will follow this book. And we can see that people who did recognize and value this book, how they were transformed. Look at the transformation that took place among the Arabs. Surely those who dispute about Allah's verses without any authority having reached them, there is nothing in their heart but pride that they will not be able to reach. So seek refuge with Allah. Surely He is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. So those who do not take this book for guidance, what is their attitude? They dispute about its meanings. They will dispute about the applicability of the ayahs. They will dispute about the basic terms that are being used over here. One reason for not changing that Quran describes over here is what? It is kubur. It is this pride and arrogance inside the heart that people want to dominate. There's a theory by Adler, the urge to dominate, that other people should follow us. Why should we follow someone else? The kind of great ego problem that has existed among people for a long time. Certainly, the creation of heavens and the earth is greater than the creation of mankind, but most people do not know. So people think and assume that they are great. What Ashraful Makhlukat, what great humanity. But compare oneself in relation to the heavens and the earth, we are nothing. The position of our earth, which seems to be such large and humongous to us, the position of our earth is like one grain of sand. If all the sands of all the beaches of the world are collected together, you can imagine how much sand that would be, right? Collect all the sand on all the beaches of the world today. Earth is just one grain of that sand, and man is this one of the 7 billion on that one grain. And yet, man has the audacity to defy and to challenge the great creator, and then to say, I am the greatest, which is the kind of quality that was displayed by the Pharaoh. The blind and the seeing are not equal, nor those who believe and did good deeds and the evil ones. Little do you heed. So imagine a blind person. You just imagine, we can't really think about, but imagine a blind person who had never seen anything, ever. He has a faint concept of things. One who is physically blind can't see this earth, right? What a great impairment that is. And one who is spiritually blind, he can't see the spiritual world. It's exactly the same thing. A physical blind and a spiritual blind. A spiritual blind cannot see the spiritual world. He only sees the material world. Like the seeing and the blind are not similar, those who do good and evil, they are also not the same. Surely the hour will certainly come, there is no doubt in it, but most people do not believe. So not believing in Qiyamah, not believing in the hour that it will finally come, is not going to postpone it. It's not going to really delay it. And to be very honest, our Qiyamah, our small Qiyamah and our hour will really come the day we leave this world. وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِي سَيَدْخُلُونَ جَهَنَّمَ دَاخِرِينَ. And your Rabb has said, call upon me, I will respond to you. Surely those who are too proud to worship me shall soon enter hell, utterly disgraced. So this is a dua. قَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. That your Rabb said, call me, do dua of me. Dua means to call. So calling, so Allah is asking, call me anytime. Call me all the time. Call me in the heart. Call me in your heart. Call me with your tongue. Call me in the sea. Call me in the land. Anytime, every time, just call me 24/7. He not only hears our call, but He also accepts our call. Every dua is heard by Allah, but the acceptance of that dua is in different ways. Either it is accepted as asked, or sometimes even something better is given, or sometimes some misfortune or some difficulty is removed. And sometimes the best of the result of a dua is that the best is the reward of that is given in the hereafter. So here, as you can see from this ayah, dua and ibadat are equated together. Hence, every dua is ibadat. Every time you pray to Allah, it's an ibadat. And in return also, every ibadat is also like a dua. Now the question, some people have this question in their minds, and sometimes they raise it up also verbally. They say, Allah knows our needs, so why does He want us to ask Him? And that's a fair question. Allah knows everything. He knows what we want. He knows our needs. He knows our wants. So why does He want us to ask Him? Well, firstly, when we ask Allah, when we ask Him, our relationship with Him strengthens. So Allah likes that His slave should ask Him and communicate Him. It's like when you really love someone, you want to talk to that person, right? You want to have a communication with that person when you really love someone. And that's exactly the kind of thing that Allah is teaching over here. So also when people get something without a dua, without praying to Allah, when people get something, sometimes it leads to takabbur, sometimes it leads to pride. But when man gets after asking Allah, then he is thankful, and there is an attitude, there is a gratitude inside him. There is a shukr inside him that thank God. And one wants to actually then be more obedient to Allah when you pray to Allah and you get something. Allah is the one who has made for you the night so that you may find rest in it, and the day to let you see. Surely Allah is most kind to people, but most of people do not offer gratitude. So the benefits of day, we all experience. I think the benefits of night also. We experience that. You have one night and you don't get proper sleep on that night. How it affects you? It affects you for days. When you travel long distance, you have this jet lag, you have these time zone change. And the same is true for light. Light is so necessary, the day is so necessary, light is so necessary that the dinosaurs became extinct because there was no light. So the night for sleep and the day for work. So this habit that people sometimes have is to sleep late in the day and remain up late in night is against nature. Actually, to be very honest, it's against what Quran teaches us. Quran says that night is a time when you need to take rest. So this is certainly not a good lifestyle that people remain up late for late night and then during the day they sleep it away. Such is Allah, your Rabb, the creator of everything. There is no God but He. Then from where are you being deluded? This is Mehrbani of Allah, that He has made the day and the night, joining with the previous ayah. See all the simple pleasures and be thankful. Similarly, deluded were those who denied signs of Allah. So those who try and find new meaning in order to misguide. To be very honest, when people do that, when they try and misguide someone else, whether they can influence someone else or they cannot influence someone else, we don't know. Sometimes they can, sometimes they cannot. But one of the things that is sure is they themselves are certainly going to get misguided. Allah is the one who has made the earth a resting place for you and the sky a roof and fashioned you, and how beautifully He has formed you and provided you with pure things. Such is Allah, your Rabb. So blessed is Allah, the Rabb of the worlds. Now, even before our birth, Allah provided everything that was needed for us in this world. And Allah says that He has made us, He has fashioned you, and how beautifully He has formed you. Look at how beautiful the faces of people are. Be thankful for that. I think one of the points that is very important for us to understand is we shouldn't really comment on the physical stature of different people. Those who find aib and defects in the faces and physical body of other people, they're actually trying to find defect in Allah's creation, and that's a serious issue. He is ever living. There is no God but He. So call on Him, making your submission exclusive for Him. All praise belongs to Allah, the Rabb of the worlds. So call on Allah, calling Allah, make your deen khalis, sincere. Prove that by doing itaat, and prove this by doing itaat and obedience of Allah. Say, I am forbidden to worship those whom you invoke besides Allah, when clear signs from my Rabb have already come to me, and I have been ordered that I should submit to the Rabb of the worlds. That Quran is telling the Prophet, and through him it is being told to us, and to us, through us it is being told to other people, that this is not my own theory. This is not really my work. I am just being ordered, and I am obedient. And that's the only thing when you read the Quran, we are just being ordered. We do what we have been ordered to do, and we are ordered to be obedient. He is the one who created you from dust, then from a drop of semen, and then from a clot. After that, he brings you forth as an infant. Then ultimately you attain full strength, and thereafter become old. And some of you die earlier, and so that you may reach the appointed term, in order that you may understand. So entire life cycle that's there. All this perfection of body, everything that's around us is there to sustain what? To sustain our body. But in the end, this body, it goes where? It goes back to the very dust which sustained it. So the Creator, who has made such immeasurable number of things to sustain our body, look at the number of things that have been made by our Creator to sustain our body. Will He not send anything to sustain the ruh, which will live forever? The body came from here, it goes back to the dust after a few years. But the ruh lives forever. So we have to trust the Creator, that the Creator, when the Creator has sent something for the sustenance of this ruh, then that works for us, that it is for our own good. He is the one who gives life and brings death, and when He decrees an affair, He only says to it, be, and so, and it comes to be. So nothing is difficult to recreate. It's the creation of the first time. If there is any challenge that's there for Allah, that's easy. He says what He has to only do is say be, and so it is. Have you not seen those who dispute concerning Allah's verses? How are they being turned away? Those who rejected the book and that which we send with our messengers, so they will soon come to know. When shackles will be around their necks and chains, they will be dragged. So in this world, people don't want to be bound by the Sharia. They say we will be too bound by the laws of Sharia. These are kind of shackles. The end result of such a belief is no good. Into hot water, after which they will be thrown into fire as fuel. Then it will be said to them, where are those whom you used to associate? Now here, shirk, by making shaitan a partner in the commandments, accepting his order along with Allah's order. That's the meaning over here. Associate. I mean, it's not like making a deity, but if people accept the commandment of the shaitan, the hukum of the shaitan, the insinuations of the shaitan, and along with the hukum of Allah, then people have made shaitan as their partner. Besides Allah, they will say, when they have left us, rather we used to invoke nothing at all. Thus Allah leaves the disbelievers astray. So no hope from any corner. Those whom Allah leaves astray will find no guide. This is because you rejoiced in the world wrongfully, and because you used to show arrogance. So here, it's important to think about this. You rejoiced wrongfully in the earth, rejoiced in the earth wrongfully. So one of the disease of the heart is exceeding happiness. There's a word in English which is called wantonness. To be wanton, to exceeding laughter. There's another word which is called mirth, which leads to reckless extravagance. So joy and pride in worldly possession. That's something that people are too happy and too joyful in the worldly possession. And the medicine for this disease of the heart is only in remembrance of death and fasting. Enter the gates of hell to live in it forever. How evil is the abode of the arrogant. Therefore be patient, surely Allah's promise is true. So whether we show you a part of the promise we are making to them, or make you die, so to us they shall return. Quran says, be patient, therefore be patient. Sabr on what? So here obviously it's a sabr on the ridicule of people. Or even if somebody is going through some physical strain and pain, time will come when it will become easy to follow. It will become easy to follow Islam. So message of Quran is be patient, keep at it. We had sent messengers before you. Among them there are those whose history we have narrated to you, and of them there are those whose history we did not narrate to you. And it is not upon the messengers that he could come up with a sign without permission from Allah. So when the commandment of Allah came, judgment was given with truth, and on that occasion all adherents of falsehood were in loss. So people demanded that the messengers show miracles in order for them to accept the truth, like even the questions like what became of our forefathers. So here, if you are a chosen messenger, people would ask the messengers, if you are really a chosen messenger, why doesn't Allah provide you with a palace? Why don't you have a mountain of gold? Now please remember, the objective of this deen of Islam, the objective of Islam is not to make people rich or powerful or make countries super powerful, but it is for people to save themselves from the fire in the hereafter. Allah is the one who has made for you cattle so that you may ride some of them and some of them you eat. So this is a reminder of the ni'mats of Allah, so that we may become thankful that we are conscious of the accountability. Some animals we know we can domesticate, others we cannot. Like even within the same category, like zebra and donkey. Donkey can be domesticated, zebra cannot be domesticated. For you there are some benefits in them, so that by riding on them you meet any need you have in your chest on them, and on the boats you are carried. So all needs that we have are fulfilled by Allah. And He shows you His signs. Then which of the signs of Allah would you deny? So in this world, we need means of transportation from going from one place to another place. To reach to our objectives successfully, we need a means of transportation. So for reaching the hereafter successfully, what do we really need? What means do we need to reach to the hereafter successfully? First and foremost, of course, that's Quran, because Quran guides us to successfully undertake this journey and to reach our final destination. Have they not traveled to the earth and seen how was the faith of those before them? Most of them were more in numbers than these, and superior in strength, and in traces they have left in the earth. So then whatever they used to earn did not avail them. When their messengers came to them with manifest signs, they exalted because of whatever knowledge they had, and they were encircled by what they used to ridicule. So the real earning is for the hereafter, since belief in hereafter is non-existence or weak in people, hence people are heedless in earning for it. So they earned and saved nothing for the hereafter, so what they collected in this world now lies in ruins. So when they saw our punishment, they said, we have now come to believe in Allah alone, and we rejected everything we used to associate. So death is, for such people, death is such a big azab for such people, because it ends what they have worked for. All they have worked for is this world, and with death everything is left behind over here. I think you can see that no one on his deathbed would ever wish that he had accumulated more wealth or he had partied more. People always remember. They always remember that, wish they had been more righteous, wish they had remembered Allah more. So the last ayat of Surah Mu'min, but their belief was of no benefit to them once they had seen our punishment, a customary practice of Allah that has been there all along in the matters of His slave, and hence at loss were those who denied the truth. So when signs of death are visible, to accept one's follies and ask for forgiveness is useless, and it is worthless. But before that, one can do tawbah, we can do tawbah now, and if it is sincere, Allah has promised that He is going to forgive. No matter what our sins were in the past, Allah will forgive. And now is the time. Now is the time to ask Allah for forgiveness. Otherwise, this asking Allah later on will have no benefit. Now let's just start with the next surah, which is Hamim Sajda. It's also called Surah Fussilat. There are two huruf-e-muqatta'at in the beginning of this surah. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Hamim, so two huruf-e-muqatta'at, which begins with this surah. Tanzilun minar Rahmanir Rahim, this is a revelation from the beneficent, the merciful. So this is the rahmat of Allah, and rahmat of Allah in form of a Quran. The mercy of Allah in form of a Quran. This now depends on man how he benefits from it. And this will vary from individual to individual. But Quran says, Tanzilum min ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, that this is the revelation which has been revealed slowly. It's been revealed slowly. Why? So that it can get absorbed. A book whose verses are elaborate in form of an Arabic Quran for a people who have knowledge. So Allah chose Arabic as a language to reveal His book. Hence, unlike the Bible and the Torah, which can be in any language, Aramaic or Hebrew or English or Urdu or Farsi, Quran only is Quran as long as it's in Arabic. Rest is just interpretation, not even a translation, because you cannot accurately translate Arabic. So because we switch language, like we do it in English, in Urdu or whatever, when we switch language, sometimes the beauty and the attraction may not come, because Arabic is such a vast language and a very expressive language. So Quranic Arabic also, please remember, is very different from the spoken Arabic. So in order, if you really truly want to appreciate the Quran, it is important that we understand the Quranic Arabic, the word-to-word translation at least of the Quran. As a bearer of good news and warning, yet most of them turned away, so they do not listen. So the purpose of the book is what? A warning for all and good news for those who accept the warning. And the haqq of Allah's kalam is that it should be followed. And they say our hearts are wrapped in cover against that fate to which you invite us, and there is deafness in our ears, and there is a barrier between you and us. So you work and we too are working. They really didn't understand. They really did not understand because of a barrier, cannot understand. For them, words become a barrier, unable to reach the essence of this book. Say, I'm only a human like you. It has been revealed to me that your God is only one God. So turn straight towards Him and ask His forgiveness, and woe to those who ascribe partners with Allah. So it is said that, and it is said through the prophets, and again it's a message for all of us, you cannot force it on people. You cannot change hearts of people. Those who desire guidance will be guided. The choice is with people. There is no force, there is no coercion either way. One who wants to be guided will receive guidance. Those who choose not to be guided, they will not receive the guidance, no matter how many times they hear the Quran. Those who do not pay zakat and are disbelievers in the hereafter, so those who spend in Allah's way, I think this is being mentioned over here. I think this is not just true for Islam, but in every religion, in every time, in every nation, people spending on people who are in need is always considered to be an act of righteousness. As for those who believe and do righteous deeds, for them there is a reward that will be unending. Say, do you really disbelieve in the one who has created the earth in 2 days? And do you set up equals to Him? That is the Rabb of the worlds. So, the day over here could mean anything. I mean, it could mean an era, it could mean a stage, it could mean a certain time, and may not be 24 hours of our reckoning. Now, in different places, Quran mentions that heavens and earth is created in 6 days. This is the only place where the breakup of these 6 days is being given. That the first 2 days is the one who created the earth in 2 days. That it is the first 2 days that this earth was created, the first 2 days. And He placed firm mountains above it and put blessings in it and measured in it sustenance in 4 days in accordance with the needs of those who seek. So the first 2 days the earth was created, and then provided sustenance in 4 days. All the sustenance. We only worry about our sustenance, but please remember, Allah is the Rabb of all the creatures, even the small insects that exist beyond our sight. Allah is providing. He's a Rabb. He provides sustenance to them. So as a result, He provides sustenance to all His creation. And if you look at the food cycle, and we look at the animals, we look at the plant, we look at the sea, the fish and the frog. Think about this fish and the frog. They lay such huge number of eggs, And some of them will become fish and frog, but a wide variety of these eggs will become a source of food for other, other creations of Allah. Similarly, as the population, human population increased, at one time there were only a few hundred people, then few thousand, few million, and now there are 7 billion people. As the world population increased, the yield of crops also increased. So the yield of corn and rice and wheat also increased in proportion as the population of mankind was increasing. So Allah sent man and created sustenance for him, and as the population increased, the food supply increased, and there is plentiful for all. Then he turned to the sky while it was a smoke and said to it and to the earth, come both willingly or unwillingly. Both said, we come willingly. So science has also drawn the same conclusion which Quran said 1442 years ago, that the entire universe initially was gaseous. It was in a gaseous state, and Quran uses the word smoke over here. He turned to the sky while it was a smoke. And Allah ordered, and they accepted willingly or unwillingly. And we see the example of this in our own, in our own planet Earth. Look at hydrogen and oxygen. They are forced to combine together. They don't combine under normal circumstances. But with force they combine together. Both of them have a quality that they are either combustible or they support combustion, right? Hydrogen is explosive, oxygen supports combustion. But when they are combined together with force, they produce water, which actually prevents combustion. So he accomplished them in 7 skies in 2 days and revealed in every heavens its affairs, and we have decorated the closest skies with lamps and protected it. All this is the decree of the Almighty, the All-Knowing. Everything around the earth, there is a protection. Everything around the earth is there in order to protect it. The atmosphere that we have, the layers of atmosphere prevents the ultraviolet rays. The layers are there to deflect the meteoroids that are hurled towards the earth all the time. All this protection Allah provided. So if they turn away, then say, I have warned you of a thunderbolt like the thunderbolt of Ad and Samud. So this is Mehrbani, the great mercy of Allah, that He has protected us. Think how vulnerable we are. In this vast universe, this small earth, how vulnerable we are. If Allah removes His protection, life will become unsustainable. When the messengers came from their front and from their rear, saying, do not worship anyone but Allah, they said, had our Rabb willed, He could have sent down angels. So we are the deniers of what you have been sent with. When people, defy all the laws of Sharia, one of the things that you would notice, nothing happens. When they defy, there's no immediate effect. When you defy a physical law, you pay the consequences right there and then. But what does not immediately or instantly affect man, it's sometimes difficult to accept, because some of these laws of Sharia, when they are broken, people will not see the effect in this world, but certainly see the effect in the hereafter. As for the Ad, they showed arrogance in the land with no right to do so, and said, who is mightier in strength than us? Did they not see that Allah who created them is stronger than them in power? And they used to reject our signs. So typical attitude of the soul superpower. When people become powerful and rich, they always think, who can defeat us? We are so powerful, we are so well protected, we have the technology, we have the medicine, right? And when in position of power and might, the reality is very quickly forgotten that the real power only belongs to the one who has made us powerful. Who has made us powerful? It is someone who has made us powerful. Someone has given the ability to this medicine to cure. It is the all-powerful that we need to remember. So we sent down against them a fierce wind in evil days to make them taste the humiliating punishment in the worldly life. And of course, the punishment of the hereafter will be much more humiliating, and they will not be helped. So some people Allah punishes when they exceed this limit. Others Allah does not punish and keeps the humiliation in the hereafter. As for the Samud, we showed them the way, but they preferred blindness to guidance. Therefore, they were seized by a thunderbolt of humiliating punishment because of what they earned. So no one learns from the past mistake. And that's the story of mankind for a long time. People don't learn from the past nation's mistake. When in power, they quickly forget. People, even now, they don't really learn from the mistake of even Hitler. And when they become powerful, they continue to do the same thing. Samud came after Ad, and they committed the same mistake. Allah has provided every possible way in order that man may be guided. But the choice is man. Samud made the wrong choice. They chose blindness to guidance. We save those who believed and used to be God-fearing. Remind them of the day when Allah's enemies will be mustered towards fire, so they will be kept under control. So after the azab in this world, the humiliation and suffering faced by the enemies of Allah in the hereafter will be far more serious. Until when they came to it, their hearing and their sights and their skins will testify against them about what they used to do. So all these faculties that have been given by Allah, one day they will bear witness on how man used them. Whether people use these faculties for benefit or against the commandments of Allah. Hence they will bear witness, these faculties will bear witness of how they were used. And they will say to their skins, why did you testify against us? The skin will say, we were made to speak by Allah, the one who has made everything to speak, and He had created you the first time, and to Him you are going to be returned. And you did not hide yourself when committing sins from your hearing, neither from your sight, nor from your skins. That would bear witness against you. But you thought that Allah didn't know much of what you did. So all these faculties are there. They are also recording of how we are using them. That assumption which you entertained about your Rabb brought you in ruins, and you became among the losers. Now we cannot hide from our skin, right? Today we think the skin is my part, it's my part of my body. Actually it's there to monitor us. Actually it is there to see everything of what we are up to. Now, if they endure patiently, even then the fire is their abode. And if they seek forgiveness, they are not among those who can be forgiven. After all this regret, remorse on that day, it will be useless and worthless. And we had assigned for them fellows who beautified for them what was in front of them and what was behind them. And thus the word of punishment became due against them, along with the communities that have passed before them from the jinns and human beings. Surely they were the losers. So here the criteria is being provided, a scale to judge. Some indicators or sign is that if we want to determine our destination and our direction, if we really want to know that, what's our destination, what's our direction, we need to look at our closed social circle, the intimate friends that we make, the people that we move with, the people that we talk to, people with whom we share our happiness and distress. Now, if we are surrounded by righteous people, if we are surrounded by neek people as described in the Quran, then it's fine, alhamdulillah, we are in good shape. If not, then I think it's time for us to really rethink. And said those who disbelieve, do not listen to this Quran and make noise so that you may overcome. So we will certainly make them taste a severe punishment and will certainly recompense them for the worst of what they used to do. That is the recompense of the enemies of Allah, the fire. For them there is eternal home as a recompense for their persistent denial of our verses. And those who disbelieve will say, our Rabb, show us the two out of the jinn and the humans who led us astray, and we will put them both under our feet so that they will become among the lowest. So people would want to trample these friends of theirs. They would want to put them under their feet. Remember that the real enemy is not the one who destroys our worldly life. He's also an enemy. But a more dangerous and a worse enemy are people who are our friends who destroy our hereafter. And as a result, on the day of judgment, such hatred for these people will be displayed. Now the next 4 ayahs are such beautiful from Surah Hamim Sajda that if you should really read them in your namaz. Inna ladina qalu rabbuna Allahu summa istaqamu tatanazzalu alayhimul malaikatu alla takhafu wa la tahzanu wa abshiru bil jannati allati kuntum tu'adun. Surely those who declare Allah is our Rabb, And then they remain steadfast, and that's the real thing. Then they remain steadfast. For them, the angels will descend. On them the angels will descend, saying, do not fear and do not grieve, and be happy with the good news of paradise that you have been promised. So when these ayahs were being revealed, obviously Muslims were being persecuted, they were being tortured, and they were being tortured just because they were reciting the kalma. Today reciting kalma will not attract any persecution, but it is the implementation of kalma that will attract mistreatment. But if that happens, be steadfast. Be steadfast even today, so that we decide that we will implement this kalma in our lives. And we will stand firm, unwavering. And if there are losses, maybe material loss, maybe a social loss because we have to change our circle of friends, or maybe because we have to leave riba, even if there are losses, please remember Allah has promised His support. So do not fear nor be grieved. Be happy. Allah will send angels, and they are giving you good news of what? Of paradise that has been promised. So such a beautiful ayat. نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون. And we have been your friends in the worldly life and will remain as such in the hereafter. This is the angel saying, right? And for you here is whatever you desire, and for you is here whatever you ask for. So this is something which is describing, these angels are saying in paradise, that availability of all things in paradise. Everything is there. And these angels are our friends. We have been your friends in worldly life and also remain in the hereafter. What else do we need? I mean, what better friends can be there than to have angels as our friend? Nuzulam min Ghafur Rahim, a gift of welcome from the most forgiving, the very merciful. This is just a welcome reception. This is for those people who have earned paradise. The angels are saying, this is just a starter. These are just the welcome drinks that you are having. The real thing comes in later on. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Who is better in speech than the one who calls towards Allah and acts righteously and says, I am of those who submit to Allah. The first and the foremost calling thing is calling people towards Allah, and this is done by those whose own bearing and direction is towards Allah. Now this calling towards Allah is not a profession, and it should never be taken as a profession. It is a mission. Now what's the difference between a mission and a profession? Profession is where we expect some kind of worldly return. Some worldly return is expected. Mission is where return is not expected from people, but return is only expected from Allah. وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ ادْفَعْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. And not alike are the good and evil. Repel evil with what is best, and you will see that the one you had mutual hostility becomes as if he is your warm friend. Now common moral law is being described away in context of really propagation. When we start to do this tabligh, when we start to preach Quran, when we start to teach Quran, this is not war of words. Spreading this message of Quran should not be with aggression. It's not being angry. Don't let your ego step in. The moment anger takes over, our ego steps in. But by being polite. But please remember, politeness doesn't mean weakness, nor is aggression a sign of strength. Being polite and doing that. Not alike are good and evil. Repel evil with what is best. And you will see the one you had mutual hostility becomes as if he is your warm friend. وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا ذُو حَظٍّ عَظِيمٍ. And no one is blessed with this attitude but those who are patient, and none shall attain it except those of good fortune. Such people who are those who are extremely fortunate. Quran said, no one is blessed with this attitude but those who are patient. People who have patience. They are cool, they are calm, they are serene, they are predictable. And opposite to this are people whom the shaitan, through his insinuation and his waswasa, makes them aggressive, makes them emotional, makes them unpredictable, makes them egoistic. This is the complete opposite from the serene and predictable people. وَإِمَّا يَنزَغَنَّكَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ نَزْغٌ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. And if an incitement from the shaitan strikes you, seek refuge with Allah. Surely He is the all-hearing, all-knowing. Now, you will get irritated. We are all human beings, right? We get angry. We get irritated on behavior. And this is, again, Quran says, this is a rational reaction. But when this happens, seek refuge in Allah, so that the waswasa of shaitan does not have an effect on us. Among his signs are the night and the day and the sun and the moon. Do not prostrate yourself to the sun and the moon, but prostrate yourself to Allah who has created them, if it is Him whom you worship. So this is an ayat al-sajda. You can do a sajda now. But if they are arrogant, then those who are with your Rabb glorify Him night and day, and they do not get weary. So Allah needs no help, right? If people don't want to do sajda to Him, it doesn't have effect on His glory. He is Ghani. And among His signs is that you see the land inactive, then once we send down water upon it, it stirs and swells. Surely the one who has given life to it is the one who gives life to the dead. No doubt He has power over everything. Surely those who distort our verses are not hidden from us. Is then the one who is cast into fire better than the one who will come out safely on the day of judgment? Do whatever you wish. Surely He watches what you do. Surely those who reject the reminder when it came to them, and surely it is a powerful book. No matter how much effort people put to counter this book of Quran, this is a mighty book. This is a powerful book. People will never be successful. Falsehood cannot come to it, neither from its front nor from behind it. A revelation from the All-Wise, the Ever-Praised. The protection of this book is so magnificent that for the past 1442 years, many people, many communities, many nations have tried to misquote Quran. They have tried to distort this book, but they have never been successful because falsehood cannot come to it. Nothing is being said to you but what has been said to the messengers before you. Your Rabb is certainly the Rabb of forgiveness, the Rabb of punishment. Had we made it a non-Arabic Quran, they would have certainly said, why are the verses not explained clearly? A foreign and an Arabian? For those who believe, it is a guidance and a cure. And for those who do not believe, there is deafness in their ears, and it is blindness for them, as if such people are being called from a distant place. Those who do not want to believe, who do not want to accept, do not want to act, will make all sorts of excuses. Like this Quran is in Arabic, we really cannot understand. We can understand English. English is not our mother tongue. See how well we understand and speak. So there is really no reason for us to make this as an excuse. Certainly we gave Moses the book, then it was disputed as well. Had it not been for the word that had come from your Rabb, the matter would have been decided between them, and most surely they are in confounding doubt about it. So the last ayat that we are going to do this evening, ayat number 46. Man amila salihan falinafsihi wa man asa'a fa'alayha wa ma rabbuka bizallamin lil abid. Whoever acts righteously, he does it for his own, for the benefit of his own soul. And if someone commits evil, he does so against it. Your Rabb is not the least unjust to His slaves. So those who act on this book, well, it's for their good. They will get a mighty reward for it. Allah will certainly not shortchange people. Allah will certainly not deprive people of the good things. So barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim.